Boris swims with sharks. Conceal new lockdown plans to avoid sticky situations with House of Commons. Boris Johnson is likely to shelve plans to introduce a new lockdown completely to avoid facing the tricky process of consulting MPs. Boris Johnson said earlier this week no new restrictions would be brought in ahead of Christmas despite the growing number of fresh coronavirus infections plaguing the country. Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland have all introduced further rules to be implemented from December 26, but no hint about changes for England has been given so far. Political commentator Lucy Fisher said several senior figures have now been claiming a lockdown will not be introduced to avoid having to recall the Commons from recess. Speaking to LBC, Ms. Fisher said, "It's worth stressing that those in government have made clear that no final decision has been taken and nothing's been ruled out cause the data could, of course, dramatically worsen. But interestingly, on my rounds speaking to lots of figures in government, I was really struck by several senior figures saying that it is now looking less likely the Prime Minister will bring forward restrictions next week. Instead, the thinking is at this stage that he is more likely to bring forward strong advice to people to try to curb and limit their indoor mixing. I think in part it's a reflection of the logistics. The Prime Minister has vowed to consult MPs on any changes to the law." The Daily Telegraph's deputy political editor added, "And the logistics of bringing back Parliament, recall it during a recess, is tricky." Boris Johnson encouraged people across the UK to get their booster jabs in his Christmas message this year, describing it as a wonderful gift to their families. In his Christmas message, the Prime Minister also said the pandemic is far from over as Omicron is surging, and paid tribute to the work of NHS staff. Mr. Johnson added, "Though the time for buying presents is theoretically running out, there is still a wonderful thing you can give your family and the whole country, and that is to get that jab, whether it is your first or second, or your booster. So that next year's festivities are even better than this year's." He also described a COVID vaccine as an invisible and invaluable present. The Office for National Statistics, ONS, said on Thursday an estimated 1.4 million people in the UK had the virus in the week ending December 16, the highest number since comparable figures began in autumn 2020, said. The data emerged within hours of Health Secretary Sajid Javid telling broadcasters the government is not planning to make any more announcements on restrictions in England this week. The NHS National Medical Director Professor Stephen Powis that the service is on a war footing as the Omicron variant sweeps through the country. Across England as a whole, 18,829 NHS staff at acute hospital trusts were absent due to reasons relating to coronavirus on December 19, up 54% from 12,240 a week earlier and up 51% from 12,508 at the start of the month, according to the data from NHS England. In London, 3,874 NHS staff at acute trusts were absent for COVID reasons on December 19, more than double the number a week earlier, 1,540, and more than 3 times the number at the start of the month, 1,174. The total included staff who were ill with COVID or who were having to self-isolate. Prime Minister Boris Johnson is not expected to announce restrictions for the post-Christmas period this week. A senior government source told Sky News that he is unlikely to give more information prior to next week. This comes as new Omicron data is set to be published today, December 23. New university studies appear to show the new COVID variant is milder than Delta, which brings hope that those infected are less likely to have to be hospitalized. Boris Johnson has ruled out restrictions prior to Christmas for England, despite the fact that Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland have made announcements about their plans to enforce restrictions. One study suggests that those with Omicron are 15 to 20% less likely to be hospitalized than those with the Delta variant. The Imperial College London study found that Omicron-infected individuals are 40 to 45% less likely to stay overnight for 1 night or more in hospital than those with Delta. Now, some MPs are arguing that the research has weakened any need for restrictions to be in place before 2022. The Prime Minister called the situation finely balanced prior to the new year. Labour has asked for a clearer idea of steps going forward so that the British public are prepared going forward.